Dallas here with First to the Floor. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Alongside me, as always, couple of smitten Al Horford fans, Wayne Spooney and Jake Eisenberg. How's it going, guys?
Long time smitten Al Horford fan. I mean, for years now, years. Man, isn't it nice? Like after all the battles we've had, the Embiids, the Giannis's, the Butlers, the KDs. This has been a pretty good fucking run through the Eastern Conference so far. Like, not bad at all. 2 straight 5-gamers. I can handle it.
Yeah. Do not care how we got here, how many players are out. We've been through it, man. Can contrast this to the last 2 years of second rounds. Yes, game 7, down 3-2 in both of the second rounds of the last 2 years, having to have historic performances from Jayson Tatum on the road in Milwaukee. Kind of another memorable game 6 by Tatum in Philly, where he almost tainted his legacy forever, followed up by a necessary 51-point game in game 7. And thankfully cruised pretty much stress-free. I certainly didn't freak out after game 2 of the series.
Never.
So, yeah, good to go.
Drama-free, trouble-free, and for instead of KP, mostly injury-free as well, which we love to see. And I'm loving some of the pictures to come out of last night. If you're listening to the audio pod, we've got Al Horford like spiking the ball into Dean Wade's body like fucking Zeus. We've got the Jays in a warm embrace. And then we've got just sort of the embodiment of our entire lives at the moment, which is the guy rolling over in bed thinking about Al Horford while his wife thinks he's thinking about other women. Me in a nutshell. Fun show for you guys tonight. We're doing our end of series awards, same as we did after round 1, really. We're going to check in on Jayson Tatum, the Jayson Tatum conversation, rather, now that other stars around the league have exhibited some flaws of their own, Anthony Edwards, and we'll check in on those pesky Knicks, Pacers, Nuggets, etc. But first, please subscribe to the First to the Floor YouTube channel. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the audio podcast. That way you won't miss any of our content during this playoff run. You tell your algorithm that you like and want more Celtics content, and you also tell the algo to recommend this show to more people. Everyone wins in that scenario. We're almost at 4K subs now, and I think once we get to 5K, that's a nice, healthy number where maybe, I don't know, we can reach out to Celtics PR and convince them to give us a player, give us JD Davison, give us Luke Cornett. We're real people with real followers. I don't know if that's how it works, but we'll try. While you're at it, check out all of Wayne Spooney's great work over at Celtics blog. Sign up to the Celtics blog playback room. Celtics, what's the URL? Playback.tv/Celtics blog, where you can watch live games with us. Check out our merch store. If you'd like to get yourself a First to the Floor bucket hat, those have been flying off the shelves.
That's right.
Join our Discord server where it's really become this thriving Celtics nerdcore community. Jump in there, check it out. All the links for everything above are all in the description below. Okay. Awards coming up in a sec, but Spoonie, Game 5. Jake and I talked about it last night on Late Night. We haven't heard your takes yet. What are your general takeaways from the Al Horford explosion in Game 5?
I mean, I feel like we Al Horford exploded on immediate reactions pretty good, and then you guys did 38 minutes on him in Late Night. So I will leave Al Horford to the, probably, but I will leave Al Horford to the side. There's 2 guys who I thought like were on the periphery that I thought played like really solid games. And that's Derrick White, who started to look a little bit more aggressive and got some threes to go. And I thought defensively, he did a much better job not kind of getting caught on Mobley and getting in those mismatches, because that's a dude we were really trying to keep him off of Mobley. He's the only guy in the starting lineup we weren't comfortable switching on to Mobley. And Peyton Pritchard, I feel like Pritchard's run is kind of going underrated. He's playing like a legitimate 25 minutes, 20-plus minutes a night in the playoffs. Everyone was afraid, can he hang in the playoffs? He's looked friggin' good defensively. Especially when he's chasing around guards, he's getting over screens really well. And then he just changes the tenor of the game the second he checks in. Like, we're always yelling, like, pace, they got to play faster. That's never really a problem when Pritchard's out there, but in rare occasions. And he's getting some shots to fall. And I thought he had one of his like little TJ McConnell pull-ups last night. That was so pretty. And then he's just been aggressive with the drive, even though he's not really been driving to finish, mostly because Mobley was camped there all series, essentially. But I just think he's been like answering all of our questions about whether he's a legitimate bench player in the playoffs. He is. He can play against the Knicks. He can definitely play against the Pacers for sure. So even if he can't play in the finals, 3 out of 4 is pretty damn good for Peyton Pritchard. And then I do want to say, you guys, you didn't talk about how good Tatum was enough. Dude, he was fucking awesome. The whole game, like every good thing that happened started with Jayson Tatum cracking somebody off the dribble, drawing help. I mean, I just thought he completely dominated that game offensively. And I felt like he was pretty damn good defensively. It was not his best defensive game, but it was a pretty damn good one.
That's fair. Yeah. We were blinded by Al Horford's beautiful eyes, I think, in that one. And maybe, probably just Tatum meeting expectations, which are incredibly high. And but you are right. He was excellent to have that game finally as well, where the efficiency turns a little bit in his favor. But yeah, man, it was like the definition. Captain's knock, controlled the game from start to finish. And he was awesome in the fourth quarter as well. Great floor game. That feels like it's been the word to describe Tatum in the playoffs in general, has been his floor game. He's controlling the game. He's letting it come to him. Is he taking 25 shots in the previous 2 games? Only 16 shots tonight, last night. But that was exactly what the game needed. And helped them cruise in the fourth quarter, which... he had that beautiful pass underneath, getting the goggles out right in front of the Cavaliers bench. Yeah, if Jaylen Brown had just taken that 3 in the corner, we maybe would be looking at a Tatum 25-point triple-double, but we'll take it.
This is why late night and the podcast must coexist, because late night we can do 2 hours on oh my God, Al Horford, amazing, and just that's the show. He put the ball through the hole again and again. It was so good. And then actual measured takes and stats and things like that the following day when we've all had a good night's sleep and kind of digested everything. So check out late night if you want just a different angle on everything.
It was very fun. It was very fun to listen to.
Appreciate it, Spoonie. We will get to the awards in a second. I did want to mention Jaylen Brown again quickly, because I don't want to say I went in hard on Jaylen Brown on late night last night, but I was a little critical of his game, which was fairly up and down, I think, from beginning to end. Listening to some pods, reading some stuff after Game 5, there was a lot more praise for Jaylen Brown and his controlled approach to the game and only taking 9 field goal attempts, for example, and really just giving the game what it needed. I rewatched the game in full last night. I see all of the praise for Jaylen Brown, and generally I'm a Jaylen Brown stan, love Jaylen Brown. And I said last night on late night, whenever we're critical of him, it's just because we hold him to this ridiculously high standard, which I think he's earned. But rewatching the game, it was very much 50-50. Whenever he did an amazing thing, dribble drive, kick out, made the right play, he followed it up with just a ridiculous turnover, falling asleep on defense. Jaylen Brown-isms, I guess we'll call them, from an X's and O's perspective. He had simultaneously a very good game in giving the game what it needed, while also exhibiting a lot of the things that I think frustrate us about Jaylen Brown. So it might be one of those cases where just both things can be true simultaneously. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, and it's probably an apt description of Jaylen Brown in whole. The good outweighs the bad, but the bad is just so friggin' obvious that it's obvious to even if you're a casual fan, what Jaylen Brown does wrong is holy shit, he just dribbled it off his ankle and it went for a fast break the other way. And then the next possession, he crosses somebody up and dunks all over the center. So he's just he's just a noticeable player. Everything about his game, he's super athletic. He hits these ridiculous mid-range shots, and then he passes it to the other team or gets blown or loses somebody for a backdoor cut. Or I do not know how that ball went through his hands on that Darius Garland pass. I know.
Defied
Jakey
physics.
said he was translucent. I don't just it. How did he not catch that ball? But ultimately, if Jaylen recognizes I just don't have it tonight, it's just not my game, they're getting into my handle when I'm going to the rim, we want him to back off and let Tatum be the primary ball handler. And I felt like he had some defensive lapses, but for the most part, I don't think it was a bad defensive game. I wasn't oh my God, Jaylen, what are you doing for 90% of the possessions? It's just the ones where it were so glaringly obvious. And he switched on to Mobley a few times, and I thought he did a really good job just being physical and boxing him out, man. And that's how you impact winning when you don't have it offensively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jaylen, it's the 90-10 thing. And I think it can just be how your brain is watching a game. It can just be your human experience can just be different for how you experience Jaylen Brown than on another night. It's I remember him missing the 2 free throws as well. So it's like that's the other loud thing. But I think my point last night was like, Jaylen has done a better job of, if he doesn't have it, if he's not having an awesome game, he's not being destructive overall. And I thought he did a really good job of that last night. And he had one of my favorite plays of the series where he got it on the baseline in the corner. He drove, and I yelled, just try and dunk on him. He just got to 2 feet and dumped it off to, I believe it was Horford, for an easy 2. And I'm like, oh my God, poise in the fourth quarter, which is that's more important than like the other stuff. And then also he had an incredible series, and he's kind of putting together a really solid playoff run after 2 series as well from a scoring efficiency perspective. And that is his job on this team, is to like get buckets. And he's been doing it at a ridiculously efficient clip.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, he can do it. And it comes from love. Like, the people you love the most are the people that frustrate you the most in this world. And with Jaylen Brown, I think we can paint him with that brush as well. Look, we're going to come back with the awards. Each award absolutely dripping in prestige. But first, here's a quick word from Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. March is over, but the biggest moments of college basketball tip off in the month of April. Be a part of the action on Prize Picks for both men's and women's college basketball. And get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. You can even make the play-in rounds seem interesting, since we all know the Celtics won't be there. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. Personally, I'm looking at Derrick White more on points because they are criminally low, and we all know Derrick White is going to come up big in the postseason. So download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100.
All right. The end of series awards. We did this after Heat Celtics round 1. We're going to circle back. It's a good format, a good way to sort of recap the entire series while celebrating, some of the more specific points throughout each game. So we'll start with the coveted Jordan Crawford MVP award. Jake, who's your Jordan Crawford MVP winner for Celtics Cavs?
I hate to go chalk here. I don't really actually hate to go chalk at all. Jayson Tatum.
It's simpler this time. Yes.
It is simple this time. Derrick White, I thought, made a run at it last series, 38 points in game 4. But Tatum in the series, 27, 10, 6, 2.7 stocks. Like, the defense, I thought, in this series from game 3 and on were ridiculous. And the last 3 games, 3-game winning streak for the Boston Celtics, I think, now, right? So we love to see that in the playoffs. 30, 11, 7, plus 3 stocks on a 60% true shooting. The last 3 games of Jayson Tatum, that's the guy. And those 3 wins, those 3 out of 4 wins in the series, he's been fantastic. I'll let you guys go from there, but he was just pretty much dominant for most of the series.
Yeah, I had Sam Hauser, but I had Tatum as well. He just led the team in defensive rebounding percentage by 8.2%. Almost 24% of defensive rebounds Tatum gobbled up, which is just an absolutely ridiculous figure. I mean, that's like elite rebounding. And I feel like not a lot of people... he guarded Mobley for like the entire series. He was the This is classic monkey pod curls Joe Mazzulla shit. Like, we want Tatum at the 5, and he's like, oh, I'll give you Tatum at the 5, but only on defense. And that's what he guarded Mobley for more time than Al and Luke Cornett did combined in this series, which is just a ridiculous burden on your best player to bang with the center an entire series, and he didn't back down. He did an extremely good job. His switching was on point every time, because they want to set pick and rolls with Mobley and get Mobley rolling to the rim. That's why Tatum's on him, so he can just switch those pick and rolls. And he did an awesome job with both of his responsibilities, including getting back and rebounding the basketball and ending defensive possessions. And then his passing over this series, this might be... other than maybe the Golden State Finals series when he was like really passing the ball well, partially because he couldn't score. But I just felt like he just knew what the Cavs were trying to do on defense. It just picked them apart, basically, especially these last 3 games. He picked them apart with his passing and playmaking, and just knew like his gravity is going to get guys open, and he found them. And I just felt like a really mature, dominant Jayson Tatum for most of the series.
Yeah, he was outstanding, as in he quite literally like stood out from the crowd in this series, like clearly the best player on both teams on the court for the entire series. And like his block numbers are low, and it doesn't really illustrate how much of a deterrent he was at the rim. You mentioned his defense on Mobley there, like size-wise completely holds up against some of those slimmer bigs in the league and was completely able to shut him down, as well as guard basically anybody on the perimeter. I think we talked after game 2, what's going on with Jayson Tatum. He was getting cracked off the dribble. He wasn't able to stay with guys on their drives to the rim. And that just like dissolved. It just completely went away. And suddenly he's back again, wound back the clock a couple of years. He's young Jayson Tatum again, and he's able to stick with and guard anyone. And to see his percentages go up, to see his scoring production go up, I also think there's like a sneaky leadership growth here. Maybe it's just because the broadcast is giving us more of an insight into that. And I think either Jaylen or Jason mentioned that in one of their post-game pressers. But between the Jays, it seemed like there was this elevated maturity behind their leadership with each other, spurring each other on, but also the rest of the team as well. And when we've seen so much playoff Jays, we're looking for the little things at this point. And to see that on this kind of platform, I think was really satisfying in terms of like we're just trying to, as Spoonie's cat goes by, we're trying to like discover the finer points of what like an actual title run might look like compared to the deeper playoff runs of Jays past. So Jayson Tatum, easy answer. Sorry, go ahead, Jake.
That's a great point, Ben, because in that first series, Jaylen had like a 31+% usage rate in that series, and that was what the series needed. Like the way that the Heat were guarding Jaylen, especially in some of those games where they were like just planting Bam Adebayo on Tatum, it was like, okay, well, that gives Jaylen free range to attack a plethora of weak defenders in isolation, and he dominated that matchup really well. Whereas like in this series, Tatum had a 29.8% usage and compared to Jaylen's 25%. And that feels like the correct hierarchy like going forward, because you're not dealing with Spolstra doing like wacky defensive stuff. That's probably going to be what happened. And I wonder if it just like took Jayson a second to recalibrate, because I do think that, like going back to like a macro perspective for Tatum, like it is a weird thing for the number one guy, the apex wing scoring predator, to be taking a step back like this, and to have a game like he had in game 5 where he only took like the 3rd most field goal attempts on the team but still controlled the game. But then in games 3 and 4, he takes 25 shots and is the volume scorer while still doing all that other stuff. I think it's just the ebbs and flows of this team, and that's what makes this team special, and what gives this team a chance to actually win a title is not Tatum just living at 30+% usage every night, but he can, and he found that usage like towards the end of this series, Spoonie.
It feels like he finally truly trusts his teammates, like 100%. And that's like what the 86 Celtics were. Like Bird just infused everybody with this confidence, and they'd move the ball and everybody trusted everybody. And Tatum, obviously, is not Bird with the passing and playmaking. I'm not trying to make that claim, but it just feels like he's a more unselfish version of Jayson Tatum, where he doesn't feel like I need to go get 30 every night, and the team's better for it. It's the best version of the Celtics since he's been drafted.
Yeah, finding that balance, absolutely.
Last bit on Tatum. I don't want to move on. So rebounding.
Spoonie said it. We didn't give enough Tatum love yesterday, so we've got to double down.
I'm glad. The rebounding, I think, is like something about Tatum that people like kind of mention but don't truly appreciate how much he does for this team. So the Celtics are first in overall rebounding percentage for the playoffs and first in overall defensive rebounding percentage. Tatum's averaging 10.4 rebounds per game and 9.8 defensive rebounds per game. That's more defensive rebounds per game than Josh Hart, Gobert, Embiid, Bam, Towns, Mobley, Luka, Chet, Paolo, Durant. Like outside of like he's fourth out of all players in the NBA in the playoffs in defensive rebounding. Like that's the reason the defense looks really good, not just because of how he's guarding guys, but how he's closing out possessions. And like you potentially forecast a Knicks series, like maybe he finally starts to get the credit in that kind of matchup, because he's gonna like be battling against Josh Hart for rebounds, which could be super fun. But it's a piece of his game that is underrated in how impactful it is to the overall success of the team.
He goes up and gets those things with ferocity as well, Rodman-esque ferocity. He seems angry at the ball and like the idea that the team would attempt a shot. How dare you? I'm going to grab this miss and go down the other end. Congratulations, Jayson Tatum, on I guess your first Jordan Crawford MVP award for the year. Evan Turner, the Evan Turner Sneaky MVP Award goes to the sneaky most valuable player. I named these awards in the last 5 minutes before going to bed last night, so apologies for the coinedness of them. Spoonie, who's your sneaky MVP for this series?
I have Jaylen.
Okay.
I think we're all recognized, like everyone, all Celtics fans recognize he had a good series or a great series. I don't think we understand how fucking efficient this guy was. Yeah. 67.5 true shooting percentage,
Jesus.
Which, league average is like 56%. 65.1 effective field goal percentage. League average is like 54. 73.3% at the rim on 6 attempts. 60% from the mid-range in this series, which like I feel like I didn't even realize he was shooting that well from the mid-range. And again, Jake said it on 25% usage. So just like Cleveland didn't have the horses defensively to stay in front of Tatum, so that's why it was more of a Tatum series. But whenever Jaylen had opportunities to attack other than in Game 5, he did it, and he did it with aplomb, with efficiency. And like there was just when the three, actually I didn't even check his 3-point shooting. I don't think he was great from 3 this series, but regardless, like when he's got it going on his dribble drives like that, 6 attempts at the rim a game, second on the team behind Tatum, and the mid-range is going like that, there's just very little things you can do. And he shot it good from the line. I think he was over 75% from the line in the series too. So I just thought like really, really excellent, efficient, like the perfect second scoring option series in the playoffs. Like a little bit higher efficiency on a little bit lower volume, and like fine defense, solid defense, like not undermining and some amazing defensive possessions at times as well. So just a great series from JB.
Yeah, Jaylen was awesome. And from like in a different type of way that I'm used to with Jaylen Brown. I think I've said it before on this series. Usually it's like crazy explosive first quarters or little runs. He was just super consistent. And going back to, I guess, the Game 5 in that he wasn't forcing it. He let the game come to him a lot in this series. I mean, Game 2 not Game 2, Game 3, he was incredible. 13 for 17, like on like 28 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, only 2 turnovers. Like that's ridiculous. And and Game 1 as well. I mean, 32 points on 12 for 18. Like, that's just... You're not going to beat the Celtics when Jaylen Brown's doing that, and especially when he's doing it in the flow, getting teammates involved, letting the game come to him in a way that he hasn't in years previous. Like, I think, not necessarily that it's a bad thing, but like last year or the year before in Milwaukee where the Celtics lost Game 1 at home, of course, but then Jaylen Brown comes out Game 2, dropping Grayson Allen, but it was like, it went the right way, but Jaylen Brown was like, I'm going to lock in. I'm going to make it kind of my game and I'll get on my back, which is fine when it works. But this is just like, get on my back, but just get on my back, get off my back, get back on my back. We're doing intermittent piggyback rides throughout the game here. He's going to hop on Tatum's back for a little bit, and they're gonna keep smacking each other's in the chest, and we're all going to laugh, and it's going to be great.
So is JB your sneaky Evan Turner MVP as well?
True. No. So I have Drew Holiday.
Okay.
Good one.
Yeah, I have Drew Holiday. I thought defensively, this team, it feels like the defense needs to can't be the thing that they lean on more so than the offense, because when the defense is humming, that just leads to the offense, tempo, all the stuff that we talk about. And Drew Holiday's right at the middle of this. Like, he was just destructive, defensive playmaking, the rebounding as well. Like Tatum led the team in rebounding, but Drew Holiday's rebounding has been really important. And when you get rebounding from your guards, like that's just really impactful. But defensively, every night, I thought that he really set the tone and made Darius Garland really uncomfortable with his strength. And he had that play. Was it yesterday? He switched on to Mobley, and man, the Great Wall of Holiday stood right up, man. Mobley just bang, bang. And then Drew pulls the chair on him, Mobley goes down, and they go back the other way. There are a lot of plays like that, and for a team that needs like that toughness, that identity, those winning plays, a la Marcus Smart, I thought it was really excellent. And then also he kind of found himself offensively in the back half of the series. So he ends up 5 for 9 yesterday, but he had those 2 really big scoring games and facilitating games in games 3 and 4. Jrue Holiday, my sneaky MVP.
Yeah, and his fourth quarter last night, ridiculous as well. We've got some suggestions for the sneaky MVP coming in. We've got Peyton Pritchard, Derrick White, Cornette, Jrue.
Everyone?
The whole team.
And a couple of people, Jesse and Z-Gamer in the chat, calling out Jaylen Brown's free throw percentage. It's all relative, right? And 75% from the line is huge for Jaylen.
Feels like 90.
That. Yeah,
yes.
Amazing. May as well be shooting 100%. I have someone else, a starter, finished the series with an 11.0 assist to turnover ratio. It was Derrick White.
Oh, Derrick White, okay.
11.0 on lower assist numbers than usual, 4.4 assists per game. But that kind of assist to turnover ratio relative to one's role on the team. And Derrick, he had that great scoring punch in game 1, but then kind of settled into more of an offensive initiator. And in that stretch last night, fourth quarter, we came out and we led with our defense, but offensively, Derrick White was initiating a lot of that offense during that stretch. And I think that's just a snapshot of his value to our offense specifically in this series. And obviously, he kind of defends in the shadow of Jrue Holiday a little bit. Like, if it weren't for Jrue, we'd probably be more regularly praising Derrick White's defense throughout the course of a given series. Derrick White in this one, just how he supplemented the good things that everybody else does and sets everyone else up for success. He's kind of perpetually my sneaky MVP just because of the way that he operates on this team.
Get off my corner, dude. Get off my corner.
Coming for you, mistress.
He's perpetually my MVP. Jeez. Keep it in your pants, dude.
I can't guarantee that.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't get there with Derrick White in this series. I thought that we kind of got the return of hesitant Derrick White. There was game 2, he was or 3, he was kind of tripping all over his feet. I thought offensively he struggled pretty mightily games 2, 3, and 4. Really good to see him find that again yesterday. He was 6 for 11 at one point yesterday in that first quarter. He was excellent. Ends up leading the team in field goal attempts yesterday. But again, as you said, Ben, 6 assists, 0 turnovers. So definitely bookended the series really nicely. And, so we'll take that from Derrick White for sure.
Yeah, and I know that he slumped shooting-wise throughout the series, but I actually really like the way that he played through that and continued to assert himself and continued to find ways to contribute despite that. And players are going to go through shooting slumps throughout the course of the playoffs, particularly long, deep playoff runs, and sometimes they don't always respond positively to that. And Derrick White, I think, doesn't blink and just continues to play the right way. So I know he was terrible through certain games, but that's why he's a sneaky MVP, not the actual MVP.
Real quick on Derrick's defense. I think it's hard to notice, but I feel like he takes away spot up threes better than just about anybody on the team. He did some stuff to Strus that was just dirty with these rear contests where he has to get over a pin down screen. And I don't even know how he gets over there. He blocks it sometimes, and how he does it without fouling is crazy. And I think he just reads the play so well that he gets to guys. So instead of a spot up 3, they just have to move it or try to drive a closeout. And when it's guys like Dean Wade and Strus, that's just not going to happen. But and Jrue, I mean, he had Garland in hell. Garland was doing everything he could possibly
get away
try
from
to
me
do to get Jrue Holiday off of him and Al Horford onto him, which worked until game 5. But so yeah, I think they're all deserving. I get it with Derrick. The offense was just not quite there for me, especially with I just felt like Jaylen's offensive punch was pretty impactful as a second banana, but all worthy. You could probably make an argument for Luke Cornette too at times. He has a monster. He has a great game this series.
Ben, I think, honestly, you made a good point about him playing through that stuff. Because even that game, he had a bad game. He had 3 for 8 from 3, and it's and they were big shots too. So yeah. I think you're right. He only has 2 games there where he has bad 3-point efficiency, and in the playoffs, that's what you need sometimes.
We really need to figure out how to do polls in StreamYard here to just try and break these tiebreakers. For the sake of it, and this is just completely off the cuff, to award the award to somebody, I'll jump on the Jaylen Brown train, and that's no offense to Jrue, and I do think partially because I think Jrue will feature again later in the awards, but Jaylen Brown, the idea of him like finding his version of like Scottie Pippen and being the ultimate two, you could argue that is more difficult to find a balance with than becoming the ultimate one. Like just ultimate one, give in to your talents, like be the top scorer, be the guy. Like that's easy because you've always been that guy before you got into the NBA. Finding your groove as number two, there's more nuance to that. And the fact that Jaylen is, despite his sort of mental lapses at times, is starting to find that balance there. I think we have to give him the award, but credit Drew as well. And apologies, Jake. I don't know why I feel so bad about that.
Anyway. I'll be okay.
Yeah, great. Okay. The aptly named Game of the Series award for Game of the Series.
Worst game of the series, yeah.
Yeah. Game 3 was the game of the series. Exactly the same as the round 1 against the Heat. And it's because of the release, the internal release, the unclenching, if you will. Just the like, okay, game 1 was great. Let's see if we can do it again. Game 2, oh no, history repeating itself. We've lost game 2 at home in despicable fashion. Now we're in trouble. It's a must win. We go down to Cleveland. We lose one. Suddenly we're down in the series. Maybe we go back home. They win that pivotal game 5. Donovan Mitchell goes for 50. This is just the anxiety storm that you find yourself within. Trying to find shelter in the storm. And then they come out game 3 and they just like pants the Cavs. And it's just like, oh, the relief. And the feelings that come from that. It's hard for me to say any game was better just because of how good that feels, that sense of relief feels.
Absolutely. The narrative piece of game 3. Yeah. You lose game 2. You get blown out in game 2 at home. And we feel like absolute shit again. Tatum has his worst game of the playoffs, and we're wondering if he's injured. And then, so you're absolutely right. You get the flip, you get the release around the other side. Tatum has his best game of the playoffs. Jaylen has his 13 for 17 night where he goes nuts. And Donovan Mitchell goes just nuclear in the first half. He goes like 23 points on 6 for 8, just ridiculous pull-up threes, ends up 7 for 10 in that game. And the defense like just sticks with it. They stay with it. And then eventually they just close it out off the back of your 2 stars. And you go back and then like, okay, we regained control of the series. We're up 2-1 off the back of our stars. Tatum actually isn't injured. He actually now just played maybe some of the best defense of the playoffs. He's rim protecting. He's playing on Mobley. All the stuff we needed to see. Plus, you kind of got that dueling element with Mitchell, like being like, this is the reason like you can't fuck around. Like he has the ability to go off at any second.
I think I would agree it's probably game 3, but a close second for me is game 5. I mean, the Al Horford stuff. And I feel like the execution in the fourth quarter was generally much improved from game 4. And I feel like that's something you can build off of and learn from going into future series like that game could have got close. It got kind of scarily close at times with Marcus Morris hitting these ridiculous threes. And every time he did, they didn't get frustrated. They came down, they ran the offense, they got a good look. Mostly. They had some bad possessions in there. But so quick shout out to game 5. But yeah, I'm with you guys. Absolutely. It's got to be game 3, coming back and just whipping their ass and reasserting yourself. And it's like, it doesn't matter what you do, Donovan Mitchell. We're the big bad Celtics. We're still going to win.
May as well sit out for the rest of the series.
Yeah, and he did.
The Preparation H Award for Best Sphincter Reliever. Now, this could be a moment, a player, a player omission, like Donovan Mitchell just being out for the rest of the series, and the sphincter unclenching relief that comes from that. For me, it's Peyton Pritchard and his timely third quarter threes, which he repeated, I think, for the final 3 games of the series, where he just came in. Things were tight. Sphincter's also very tight. And Peyton Pritchard just hits like balls on the table, massive 3, multiple steps behind the 3-point line, out of the flow of the offense, just goes Peyton Pritchard zone for a moment and just, again, brings that sense of relief, gives us a little buffer on the scoreline there. And that level of confidence and production is not something that we've seen on this stage from Peyton Pritchard yet. Celtics fans know through watching multiple regular seasons now of Peyton Pritchard, he's more than capable of that if given the green light and have sort of instilled with the confidence. But I have no idea, not an NBA player or an athlete on any level. I would imagine it's very difficult to carry that confidence into something like a playoff series with such high expectations of the Celtics. And for him to pull those shots and hit them at high accuracy consistently in those junctures of the game, those third quarters where it's tight, massive sphincter relief for me. So he's the award winner for me.
Well, on that, I've just quickly uploaded this. Let's see if you can feel the sphincters releasing in this exact moment right now.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you're right.
This is
you're
awful.
Right. Tired.
But this is
right.
This is bad. No. Doesn't
this
matter.
Is good. I love this little. Oh, Pritchard! Fucking Peyton Pritchard! Let's go!
Holy shit!
Unreal.
Monster nuts.
And relax.
Stop drinking.
No, please don't ever stop drinking. That was so good. But
I love this little, and then he just pulls it. I was gonna say this little action, and
yeah.
he just
well, all of us,
it.
we're all kind of chattering, and then we just go, and I think that's exactly the moment where the sphincters reach peak tightness and then also peak looseness. So, I think that's a good call, Ben.
Yeah, and
Anyone else
the
for this
fact
award?
I have game 4. We were on our way to losing this game. It was a 5-point game with a couple minutes left, and then Tatum draws 2, kicks it to Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown hits a monster 3, I think, to put it back up to 8-point lead, and basically the game was over. 8-point lead with a minute left, and the game was over. That's a huge sphincter reliever, because if we choke that game away and it's 2-2 going back to Boston, we are not in good moods right now, even if we're up 3-2 for game 6. That saved the series, I feel like, in some ways. So just a monster shot from JB and a great play from Tatum.
Yeah, and you love to see them execute a crunch time moment like that. J to J action as well. You always love that. Mine, I guess, is a little broader. I've got 2 submissions here, but just the fact that Jaylen Brown did shoot 75% from the free throw line on 4.8 attempts. So that's pretty good volume on getting to the line and 75% from the line like that. That's big to me. And I love that he's just trying to face this thing head on and making it public and accepting his weaknesses, as Jaylen Brown is known to do. And let's hope that can carry through, because if he's going to do that, then we don't really need to worry. And if he's going to get to the line 5 times a game, then that's a really nice, reliable source of offense. And then another broader sphincter releasing kind of trend, Jrue Holiday having those 2 big games in a row in games 3 and games 4, 18 points on 7 of 10 shooting in that game 3 as well, and then following up with another 16 points on hyper efficiency as well, and then 5 for 5 in the fourth quarter. Sprinkled a couple of evil Jrue moments in the game as well, but those 2 games I was like, okay, he's capable of being the Jrue Holiday that we've seen in the regular season on this team in this role. That makes me feel good going forward. That means there's another guy that can, if someone's off, someone can, who knows, Jrue Holiday, bang, pops off for 7 for 10, and that flips the game on its head.
You had me at broader sphincter. The Jrue Holiday Award for Defensive Player of the Series. It's just Jrue Holiday, right? This is a quick one, an easy one. Any arguments against any other nominees?
I would nominate Tatum, but I would ultimately vote for Jrue Holiday. I do think Tatum had a really difficult job, but so did Jrue. And Jrue, Garland scares me against Jrue Holiday. I feel like he can struggle, and Mitchell too, with these quick, shifty guards, but he did not. He was so locked in, dude. He was so physical with them, and he just kept them in front and did a really good job getting around screens. He was everywhere. And Jake, you've been on it. His defensive rebounding has been really good too, which we need. Offensive rebounds can flip a game really quick. So yeah, it's Jrue Holiday, but shout outs to Tatum.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Jrue feels like he's been the defensive tone setter for the entirety of the playoffs, and he continued that here. But I think, and if I was going to give an award for games 3 to 5, maybe I'd go to Tatum. The defense that I thought he played in game 3 in particular was insane off the back of his woeful game 2 performance. So definitely give it to Jrue. The way that he's just navigating screens, and a great warm-up, I think, for either Brunson or Halliburton, really. Yeah. The way that he's had to deal with Garland and Mitchell in this series, I think is a good battle test, to use a hot button term that the Celtics haven't had to deal with apparently ever. Champion Jrue Holiday. But yeah, I think to see him really bother the ball handlers on the Cavs and the Heat, you got to go Jrue. But Tatum being 6'9" rim protector, that makes me feel nice.
Horford did have a 104 defensive rating, like the best defensive rating by minute players by far in this series, which was interesting. But then we watched him get cooked by Cavs guards for multiple games there. So hard to give him that. But he sort of came out well in that stat, defensive rating, which, speaking about defense, kind of important. Couple more here. Best off the bench. I've got a couple of nominees for you. Actually, someone else has put this here, so I'm not going to rattle off someone else's stats on our run sheet. But who do you think was the best player or contributor off the bench in this one?
I did not put stats in.
Yeah, I'm like,
Jake, if you got
I was like, did I put stats in? Maybe I did. But Peyton Pritchard is the best off the bench for me. I can't believe that he's become this consistent of a contributor, two-way offensive, good for an offensive rebound and a big nuts three-pointer in every third quarter. When games are won and lost in the third quarter, for him to come in, give you those minutes, because you're not going to see him a lot or the bench in the fourth quarter. So that stint in the third quarter is going to be important for the bench. It's like the last rest for Tatum and some of these guys. He's just been really confident, man. And like that three that he's got the three big nuts threes, the one that we just watched, the logo three, end of quarter, third quarter. He has Dean Wade isolated. He waves off Tatum and just bangs it over Dean Wade. And then again yesterday. And then defensively, man, he just digs in. He had a play that it's going to be on underrated plays where he gets switched onto Mobley. They end up getting Cornette to scram switch it, but Pritchard just like digs in just enough where like Mobley doesn't just waltz into a really deep catch to make it an easy two. And it's like, that's what really matters in the playoffs, man. Can you scrap for an extra foot or two of space to make Mobley's catch a little bit more difficult, to lower the percentage chance that shot goes in? Like, that matters. One offensive rebound from your 6'4" guard that's shooting 43% from way up from his regular season numbers. He just makes winning plays, dude. Dog. Straight up dog, and he's just bringing it in the playoffs.
He's averaging 11. He averaged 11 points a game in this series, which I didn't even realize, which is pretty solid. And he shot 50% from three and over 50% from the floor. Only one turnover a game. So just a really awesome, and like I said, did a good job hounding Garland when he had to. So really, really solid series for Pritchard. He was my easy number one for the best bench player.
Yeah, 23 minutes per game in the series just shows like Joe's confidence in his ability to impact this series. And yeah, like aside from the scoring, like you guys said, the screen navigation and hounding the Cavs guards, and yet somehow getting himself in position for offensive rebounds in the trees there. Truly amazing stuff. And again, like we talked about it with the third quarter timely shots, but just the confidence to get himself truly involved in a series and to truly impact a series is just the kind of growth that you want to see from someone on Pritchard's career trajectory. So good stuff. Last award here, most memorable non-basketball moment. And I have some nominees for you guys. LeBron leaving Cleveland early, Tatum's chest slap on JB in the ensuing payback last night, JB gassing up Big Juice. Like we talked about the leadership growth there, and we got a little insight into like their dead ball conversation there. Big Juice. Marcus Morris's 3-point joke-a-thon, and Horford just leaving the court last night, embracing the Garden crowd, them responding in kind, and just the whole Horford sequence last night. All non-basketball moments, some of which obviously happened on the basketball court, but do any of those stick out to you, or do you have any other nominees you'd like to add?
One sticks out to me. I'd like to be positive. I'd like to say it was Al leaving the court, which I probably would vote for, except watching LeBron dejectedly leave Cleveland again. What were you headed to? Miami, LeBron? Couldn't even stay till the end of the buzzer. Oh, it just gives me fuel, dude. Oh, it's so good. He's just the worst. I absolutely love that moment. That's an easy one for me, but I think Horford, like that ovation they gave him, well deserved at the end of Game 5, was kind of almost teared me up a little bit. That was so awesome.
I should have known Spoonie was going to go LeBron. Any chance to shit on LBJ? And who am I to fault you for that one? Yeah, Horford was incredible that moment, and for him in the press conference to talk about the connection he has with the fans, and he could feel that in that moment, and that he wanted that adoration from the crowd in that moment, and they gave it right back to him, which of course you knew that they were going to. Just the Garden knows ball. Al Horford knows ball. He knows winning plays. the classic moniker, like Al Horford is good. And if you like, a great litmus test for someone's ball-knowing knowledge is their opinion on Al Horford. And man, 22, 15, 5 assists, a steal, 3 blocks, when everything felt like it was working against him. And then to have all the emotions kind of come back on top of him like that was just like a nice, just get the ring for this guy, man. Just get the ring for this guy.
I need that image, like a teary Al Horford, like hoisting the Larry O'B, like kissing the leprechaun on the court, all that stuff. I need that so badly. It used to be Marcus Smart that I dreamt of that in that moment, but now it's Al Horford and obviously the Jays. We're going to come back in a moment, talk about, actually, we didn't decide who was the award winner. I think I got to go with Spoonie and go the LeBron.
Let's go.
Okay.
Because just the history of LeBron in the playoffs and all the talk of like this is an easy run for the Celtics so far. Like we're not facing a full strength Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler anymore. We're not facing a LeBron James led Cavs anymore. He's just sitting on the bench looking miserable and leaving the game early. That's a huge turnaround. So anyway, we're going to come back in a moment and talk about Jayson Tatum and wrap up talking about the rest of the league. But first, here's a quick word from Game Time.
The NBA playoffs have been awesome so far, so it's hard to not think about trying to get to a couple of games. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer to tip-off, which makes it great for last-minute decisions to maybe fly to Boston for the NBA Finals. My dad is literally on the way to Boston from Sydney right now for Game 1 of the second round, and he used Game Time to get his tickets. Game Time has awesome features like seat views. You get a sweet panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. You get a lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Game Time. Check it out. Good deals aplenty.
My dad's still on the way to Boston for Game 1 of round 2.
Yeah, that's right.
I got big news, Dad. They won, which is awesome.
But he got a great deal, which is the main thing. So definitely check out the Game Time app. If you're looking to buy tickets for Celtics games or anything, that's where you're going to find the best possible price. So I want to check in on the Jayson Tatum conversation very quickly. And we're going to get through these segments quite quickly so we can try and finish within the hour mark. But how has the ongoing Jayson Tatum conversation evolved over the past week? And where I think this is interesting is Anthony Edwards was finally defended against the Nuggets the way that teams have been defending Jayson Tatum, particularly in the playoffs, for the last couple of years. And how did Anthony Edwards respond to that on the court? Not fucking well. He did not have a good game. He got completely shut down by the Nuggets, who defensively have been good when it matters, particularly in their title run through the playoffs last year, but not particularly known for their defensive prowess, and yet completely shut down Anthony Edwards, who had been getting fucking Michael Jordan comps and being just known for his offensive explosiveness, completely shut out of that game. So I guess how does that change the perception from your minds? Because I know that we were starting to sort of cotton on to the Anthony Edwards things. We were starting to get behind that narrative, and to see him actually come up against a proper playoff planned defense and respond the way he did, I think helps me in my Jayson Tatum fandom. And it does seem to have simmered down the broader conversation about Anthony Edwards and just how good he is, Spoonie. How have you seen that conversation evolve since then?
So I always thought it was kind of like Tatum was held to a different standard. He just straight up is. So people talk about him like he's never accomplished anything in the playoffs, while they hold up these guys like Joel Embiid, who's never made it past the second round. So we're starting from a biased conversation at the very beginning here, but I think Tatum is almost just kind of immune to the way you guard him at this point. He's just seen it all now. He's been in so many playoff games for just 26 years old. And Ant's got a lot of learning to do, man. This is what it looks like when you're now being guarded like the number one option. It's really fucking hard to be consistent when that starts happening. And Ant was really inconsistent all season. So I doubt the conversation will change. It will just stop happening. They will stop shitting on Tatum, but they will not praise him, is what's going to happen.
Yeah, man. I'm just looking at the usage and true shooting numbers now. Jalen Brunson's the new guy as well, relative to Ant. Like, he's got a lower true shooting than Tatum in the playoffs. I'm like,
yep.
I didn't even realize because of the propaganda that's being fed into my brain. It's like, if we want Tatum to take 30 plus shots, he's gonna fucking score 40 points like every second night, like or every night. Like it's just what's gonna happen. But they're not gonna win by 20 plus on a lot of nights. I have turned. It's really interesting with Ant because like he was absurd for the first 7 games of the playoffs, and then they finally threw like a pretty normal like playoff defense at like a number one guy, and his teammates weren't able to kind of beat him, so he started to force it, and it didn't go very well. And like Tatum's been dealing with that for years now, but I am now more open to the idea of entering Tatum's tier sooner rather than later. But like the thing was like, can he at least prove it first? Do we have to put him in there before he actually does it? And I got it like Ant's game 4 in at home where he has 44 points and they still lose. Like he was incredible in that game and they still lost.
Sure.
But I do think it's like it has balanced out, and to be a number one guy and to beat these like elite defenses, there's really one guy in the league that can do it consistently right now, and it's Jokic. Other than that, like you're going to need your teammates to help you beat these defenses to open things up so you can get back in the rhythm. And it's like, can you scrounge like 25 points on 55% true shooting when the defense is playing you this way, when the rest of your teammates stink? And Anthony Edwards wasn't able to do that in that game, and like that would have maybe been enough. So yeah.
It's a high-risk conversation given that at the time of streaming and recording this podcast, the Nuggets and the Wolves play in a couple of hours, and how Anthony Edwards responds in that game to that defense from the prior game will obviously be hugely important in how this narrative shifts from what it's at right now. But it was just refreshing and a nice reminder and potentially a bit of a wake-up call to some of the anti-Tatum, pro-Anthony Edwards stands of like what it looks like when you are the total focal point of a solid playoff defense. So I thought that was interesting to just bring that up very quickly. Let's wrap up on this around the NBA. Obviously, we're not sure who our Eastern Conference Finals opponent is going to be at this point. If Pacers, Knicks, and Wolves Nuggets both end in 6 games, the Conference Finals Game 1 in the East is Sunday, May 19 at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If Pacers, Knicks, or Wolves Nuggets goes 7 games, then the conference finals game 1 is Tuesday, May 21 at 8 p.m. East, which is actually during daylight hours here in Australia. So please go 7 games, either of those series. And of course, the flow-on effect of like Al Horford gets more rest, Kristaps Porzingis gets more recovery time. Obviously rooting for one of these series to go 7. It's only going to take one of them to do that, to push the schedule out. So please, one of you guys, Pacers, Wolves, someone's got to win one of these games.
It feels like the Pacers.
Yeah, it feels like the Pacers have a chance of winning. Like they, has a team won on the road in that series yet?
No,
they haven't. Yeah,
they're
so
heavy favorites, heavy-ish favorites. Not heavy like the Celtics favorites, but heavy like a normal heavy favorite in a home game. They're like plus 5.5, plus 6.5, or something like that. So I would expect them to win. OG Anunoby has been announced out for that game as well.
Right.
The Knicks did get 2 days off rest, and that was like the first game in the series that a team actually kind of blew out the other team and felt like, actually that's not true. The Pacers did it at home too. So I take that back, but like maybe that'll just continue. Home team rolls.
Yeah, I feel like it's Knicks in 7.
And then I think I know the answer to this, but like, who's your preference? If you could choose someone to emerge from that round 2 series, Pacers, Knicks, and face us in the conference finals. And there's pros and cons to both sides, but Jake, who'd you prefer to face if you're a Celtics fan, which you are?
It's close. I am a Celtics fan. I know as objective as I am. The Pacers to me, they just fit my philosophy to a T. Give me the squishy, soft defense team. Like a team that plays fast, that kind of plays into the Celtics' hands because they are better when they play fast, whereas the Knicks actually want to slow it down. I wouldn't mind seeing the Knicks either, though. I wouldn't mind seeing the Celtics get a shot at slowing down Brunson. I would like to see that, but then you start to play with, does OG Anunoby come back before Kristaps Porzingis healthy? That gives them a much higher defensive ceiling than the Pacers, obviously. So just give me the soft Pacers. Like they might have a shooting variance 2 games, but like they're not beating the Celtics in a series.
Yeah, I agree with that. Give me the Pacers. And the Knicks are like super tryhards. They will like go over your back for rebounds and like will play you super physical. And just the chance of somebody getting hurt, I feel like is much higher in a Knicks series. And I don't think the Pacers can score that well against us, like unless Halliburton goes banana. I mean, like basically every time they beat us, it's either been O'Shea Brissett going for 35 or Halliburton not missing, and he's just not really been that guy in the playoffs. So I feel like we could, they'll definitely probably get one with crazy shooting variance, maybe two, but I feel like that could be a sweep, honestly, with the Pacers. The Knicks, it feels like 6 games at least to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pacers definitely like to continue our breezy run to the finals again. If we are, just to qualify that, but if we are lucky enough to get there, that's huge. And some have said we haven't been battle tested and all of that stuff. We've already talked about it on this show. I'm a big fan of that, but don't test us. Like, let us get to the finals and then test us. I'm completely okay with that.
We've done so many battles. Enough with the battles, dude.
Yeah, we've been tested, especially as fans. Jesus Christ, but. The idea of the Jays like combining for 70 points in MSG in like a Game 3 barn burner is also very enticing.
Dude, ripping
KP
threes
coming
and
back.
Yeah, MSG's eyeballs.
Sunning the Knicks fans. All things are possible. All right, we've got to leave it there. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be back live on this channel and in your podcast feed on Sunday night at 8 p.m. East with Noah Dalzell from Celtics blog and CLNS to preview the Eastern Conference Finals. Spoonie, Jake, love your work, guys. Until next time. Go Celtics.
I love the